Okay, so first things first, this is Blender, and this is just a quick introduction on the little basics that you might want to learn when it comes to making like all kinds of different things, from like weaponry, characters, whatever, you can basically build anything you want just using these basic methods. Okay, so this is the first screen you're going to see, and we're going to go into just general, so it's just like a cube that we're going to work with, and there's plenty of videos where people delete all of this stuff, the camera, the cube, whatever. To be honest, it doesn't even need to be deleted. It's just, stupid sheep online following like stupid trends. Personally, from a developer's perspective, it's a cube, just use it, it's not going to hurt you. Also, go into preferences up here underneath edit. So you go into edit and then you go into preferences. Once you get into this little window here, this is going to be where all your add-ons are. Make sure to tick these on. So sometimes you might have installed an add-on or you don't know that there's one on your system. Because Blender actually comes with quite a few good add-ons that you can use already. I'm pretty sure I have most of mine installed on here. I'm going to show you the add-ons that you're going to need to use real quick right now, and then I'm going to show you how to install them. So these are all the add-ons that I use currently in Blender. Simply Wrap is one of the best ones to use for clothes right now. If you're not going to use that, then use Marvelous Designer. It's expensive, but this Simply Cloth one is a cheaper version. You're still going to pretty much get the same result, to be fair. Like, long story short, it is something that you might want to look into. So yeah, Simply Cloth, very good. Another one is Grid Modular and ID Mapper. Grid Modular, good for building, very straightforward. You just basically go into edit mode with your object, which I'll show you here. Click on our object, go into edit mode. Then on here, we can click on any surface. We can select up in this top corner the different areas that we're going to work on, whether it's, like we see here, a vertex select, which is just these points that we want to maneuver. So we can press G to grab and maneuver that around if we want, moving those around. And then we've got the vertex lines here, like the edge selection or whatever. So if we go on here, you can do the same thing again. You can move the edges, just undoing this by Control Z. And faces, again, press G, move it around, enjoy. Right, now we're going to go to the edges. I'm going to just show you some quick hard surface modeling without using Grid Modular. So if I press Control B, that's already set it up to Breville. Once I've got an edge selected or an area selected, and then when I move my mouse up and down, you can see it changes the surface edge to a flat surface. All I have to do now is scroll on my mouse wheel to add in edges. You see, and if I add in, the more edges I add, the smoother it's going to be. The real thing you want to do is try not to add too many, because you can always smooth out your mesh afterwards using some other techniques, but save you the hassle of putting in tons of them thinking that this is going to make your workflow better. It won't. It's actually going to make it worse, because it's going to take more time to load in all of those faces that you see that it's cutting it up into. And the more faces, the more problems, okay? Because that's going to be difficult to edit, change, and obviously add different things to. So I'll leave it at something as small as that. And then when we go back to object mode, you'll see how smooth this is. As you can see, it may not be that smooth, but if we go into, we right mouse click and go into shade auto smooth, now there you have it, nice and smooth. Very simple, very straightforward technique. There's your hard surface modeling. Thank you and goodbye. Okay, so I'm not going to leave it there obviously, but that is basically how you would do that. If you were making edges on different things, whether it's weapons and tools, just cut your object up into smaller pieces. You can add another object into the stage. There's plenty. Once you go up to add on here, can just add them into the area and then just start working on a piece at a time. You know, if I'm building a weapon, I'm going to make the base of the weapon, and I'm going to make separate different objects and attach them to it, which is very easy, just using some simple key commands like Control P or Control and something. You know, it's very, if it's not, I think Control join, Control and J to like join. So I don't know, I'm going to just try it out right now because I haven't done Blender in a while, only because I've been working in Unreal Engine on a few projects, and one of them at the moment is the Hustle Kingdom game that I'm working on. Just going to see where that circle is. I think it's inside the object. Let's just get, yeah, because sometimes it will place it. Yeah, okay. So instead of using a circle, we use a sphere so that we can see it a little bit clearer. Right, so I've got a sphere, I've just added it onto the stage. Wait, no, I haven't. Circle again. Sphere, UV sphere, there we go. Okay, I'm not going to change the settings. You can change them down here if you want to. Segments, more segments again. It's just going to make it smoother or not, or less. As you can see the shape, look, less equals PlayStation basic polygon graphics, and more makes it smoother. Okay, so there we go, and there we go. So again, as I say to you, try not to use too much of this subdivision and stuff like that, like subdividing it, breaking it up into more faces to make it smoother, because like I just showed you, that same technique, Auto Smooth will do that for you. Okay, it's still a little bit rigid around the edges, but you can smooth that out. You can change the amount of vertices. You could even subdivide it. Like if I go into here, let's go into edit mode, and if I subdivide, it's going to smooth it anyways. Okay, this will just add more faces. You don't need to do this, there are other options again, but the best thing to do is just add in a few more faces than normal. Like when you see the marker down here, we'll go back to the beginning and I'll show you what I'm on about so that you don't have to guess. So we're going to go down to, go onto our meshes, go to UV sphere, bring this all the way up, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just basically, that was a bit strange, it's because I moved it, sorry. So before you move it, the best thing to do is, because everything's going to spawn in the center, you can change the center as well, which I'll get into in other videos when I do my actual courses that you guys can learn from. But you see it spawns it in the center, and if you go to move it, you'd have to go back to get this little window up again. You could most likely find it in the settings tool somewhere, or if not, find another way to bring it up. There is ways of getting it back up again too, so that you can edit this. So if I put in a few more segments or a few more rings, see, all it was just a few more rings. So I can bring the segments down to somewhere around, say, 70, 50. You can even bring it down quite low. So let's just say 50 for now, yeah? Radius just means how big this thing is going to be. I normally keep that at 1 or whatever size. You can also do auto scaling in this so that you can get things to be the exact size, so they don't come out too big or too small. I tend to get like an object that I'm going to use this to attach to and bring it onto the stage, and then you'll see the exact size, because right now this is massive. Okay, and in most cases you're going to find the objects are very tiny, like they're probably about the size of this, like this tiny corner here. So first things first, we'll shade smooth it or smooth, so you can see, look, I didn't use that many, I didn't break it up that much, and it still looks very good. Okay, so using that technique that you just saw, when you bring an object onto the stage, we'll do it once more so you can see. I'm going up here and adding an object in UV sphere. It's already got my previous settings, so which I shouldn't have moved it. Let's get that again. Obviously you don't have to do it this way, I'm just doing it because it's a little bit quicker than searching for anything else. So as you can see here, it's at 50, around 50, okay? And then all I'm going to do is lower it or bring it up just to see, like that, as you can see, is giving this more faces, right? So there you go. That's going to bring that up to a nice amount. And then the rings, if I lower this, you can see quite clearly what it does, okay? So you can actually see things, and if you hover over them for long enough in some cases, it will tell you roughly. Obviously that's not a good example because it just says rings, which is stupid. But for some things it will tell you exactly what things are, like view layers, the output, render. So Blender is not super difficult, it's just people make it more difficult than it needs to be, okay? Because they love to make things complex, whereas I like to make things simple. So if you're on my channel, please subscribe, because a lot of the videos I'm going to do are going to be straightforward and simple, so you can sit and learn and understand these difficult programs like Unreal Engine, Blender, and so forth. And if you have a program that you're unsure about and I've probably never used before, I could probably have a look at it, learn it in a couple of days, and tell you the area you're stuck on, because I'm used to working in these terrible programs where they don't give you much information, and you've got to figure it out. I've done it for over 30 odd years now, and it's worked for me. I've made plenty of games, and I've built plenty of things that, you know, that most people would not probably be able to do this fast, okay? So that's that. I'm going to auto shade smooth, so right mouse click on the object and just auto shade smooth, just making sure I've got my object selected, and there's your sphere. Now we're going to join the two together, and then we're going to do some grid modular stuff with this. So we'll drag it to each other like this. We don't have to drag it together, you can still connect it apart, but I'd rather just drag it in. So as you can see, they're both connected together, but they're not paired up, okay? They're just on top of each other in this position. So all I need to do now is select the object that I want it to join last to. So if I want this to join to that, then I'm going to select this and then that last, okay? And if I want this to join to that, I'm going to select this, then this last, okay? I'm not sure if that's correct, because sometimes, you know, it has a tendency to be the reverse of that, but naturally you'll figure that part out. It's not that difficult, but normally it's the last object that you select that it tends to join to. I don't know if that's changed now, but I press Ctrl J, and now I have an object joined together. Excuse me, my voice is a bit hoarse because I'm a bit tired. But yeah, so that's how you join objects together. And then if you want to separate them, that's something for another day, but I can still show just a quick demonstration of how you can still do that. As you can see here, I have my object selected. I don't want to select anything else right now. All I want to say is Control P. Sorry, not even Control P, is it? Let me remember this now. See, this would help with my book, that I have all my shortcut keys on it. Just trying to remember now, it's not Control P. It's P on its own. And you can do by selection. So when you press P, that just gives you the option to separate basically the actual object. And now that it's separated, if I go back into object mode, that is separated from the object. So those are two of the major things that you're going to need, like beveling, which I told you at the beginning, pressing Ctrl B, and then using your mouse wheel to scroll up and down to give yourself more faces cutting into that surface, more and more edges, and also learning about using these little key windows in the bottom here to give yourself more faces and more edges, more vertices, things like that. Try not to use too many vertices. The best way you can master Blender is to use less vertices, because it will be perfect for the retropology at the end, meaning you're going to have an equal surface, like you'll have like an easier time trying to cut things up as long as they never go into triangles, okay? So you want to try and keep it in quads, meaning you want to try and keep these surfaces like equally lined up. So for instance, this has got a curve here and it's missing a point, so there's not four vertices meeting to each other. So if I put like something in the center, like a little dot here, and I try and line it up, it's going to go to each one of these points here, which I'll demonstrate for you right now. This is very important when it comes to building anything in here. As you can see, those little dots on there, they're all vertices, okay? And just to show you what they are, it says right here, your vertex, okay? These little ones here are vertex and edge, yeah. But basically, these ones here, you're gonna see that they won't line up correctly if I was to build something in the center. So for instance, we're going to use grid modular now, and when I use this grid modular, I'm going to right mouse click after, so I'm going to select the face and I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to go down to the add-on grid modular, okay, and I'm going to show you how to install this stuff as well. But first off, when I go onto here now, this is just a quick demonstration because I'm going to go into grid modular very quickly, very briefly after this, so don't panic if you don't know how I got to here and everything else, okay? And I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration. Again, don't panic because I'm going to go over this. So now I've cut through there, you can already see this line that's come about, right? So the thing is because I've got all these points on there, if I was to make an uneven number, then that's when you're going to have bad retropology, meaning the surfaces are not even, and when you try to add materials and things like that, it's going to look funny and your objects are not going to be perfect. So that's the science behind building objects. You want to make sure all the surfaces are equally lined, or at least have a very good equal surface, like like four corners all the time if you can. Like there's always four that meet up with each other, okay? So you've got a flat face, because if anybody knows anything about programming or anything, just like you see here on this surface, this grid on the ground, it equally needs to be four in order for it to really be perfect, okay? Obviously you can build things with triangles in it and everything else, but if you want to just make easy objects and things that are quite advanced look very good and not have to worry about, all the unpackaging of them and stuff when you unwrap them and stuff like that to put textures on, then the best thing you can possibly do is keep them in fours, okay? Keep all your faces in a four, which is a quad, okay? And there's also tools that you can use to change these things into quads. So if you've got triangles all over the place and you're like, oh, for God's sake, how do I do this? And basically you want to make sure that you change them on here. I'm pretty sure I've got so you see triangle faces and tries to quads. It's tries to quads, okay? And once you do that, you can select your entire object. If it tries to quads, it might deform things, so you might want to do it separate area at a time just to make sure, but that normally will change it from triangles to quads. The best thing to do personally is to go in and edit them yourself and make it to a point where everything kind of meets up with each other perfectly or good enough so that it won't deform your work afterwards if you do tries to quads. Because if I do that now, tries to quads, where is it? Tries to quads, there we go, then it won't do too much with this one, but if I was to play around with it, I'm pretty sure I would damage this in some way and it could cause issues. But the best thing to do, is to just try and line everything up yourself, because it's not that difficult. If you start off a basic project, you could make a house or a gun or a sword or whatever you wanted out of something like this, or objects on a stage, houses and cars and vehicles, whatever, so you just use your imagination. But you can sit here and edit everything quite easily with grid modular, and that's what I'm going to go into next. So grid modular and add-ons. In this section I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to do. So preferences is where you're going to go from edit, so we're going to go up here to edit, then preferences, and then we're going to go to add-ons. And in add-ons, as I've said before, this is where all your add-ons will be, and you want to make sure that you're going to install them, okay, onto here if they're not there. And what that will do is just take you to an area where your folders should be. I'm taking you to my folder where my add-ons are. I'm just going to click on my add-on, say for instance like this advanced boolean one, and I'm just going to say install add-on. It'll probably tell me a prompt like I've got it already. If it doesn't, then it's going to be on here. If you can't see it, then you type it in. So that one was advanced boolean, and because I've already got it on here, it's there. Okay. For grid modular, you do the exact same thing. You'd go onto here. I'm not going to do it because I already have it installed, but you would do the same thing. Click on installed, go to the folder. The best thing you can do is keep everything organized, keep all your add-ons in one folder if you can. Try to keep everything organized and structured, okay, which I'm going to go over next as well. When it comes to building things, just briefly, this is all a brief little like introduction onto how to build things on a professional level. Most people will say, oh, you can do this and you can do that, and there's even more professionalism to it. But this is what I call simple professionalism, where if you're an intelligent being, why make things so much more complex than it needs to be? The key thing is to be able to make it simpler, more easy to use, hence the reason we have touch phones and not some supercomputer for a mobile phone that nobody knows how to work. Exactly. Simple makes life easier for you, speeds up your work process, therefore it's better than some idiot saying, here's X, Y, and Z what you can do to do this, and if you hold down these controls and you do all this fancy business, you don't need to do it. Just make shortcut keys and keep your workflow very simple and straightforward. The easier and simpler it is, the better it is for you to get things done, and the less stressful you're going to be at the same time as you build things, okay? Take that from me, because I know from experience of 30 odd years of playing around with all these different programs, okay? I've seen Blender and all of these programs, I've grown up with them and seen them advance over the years from nothing to not even existing. So I can go back to the days of the floppy disk, so, and the old school MS-DOS and before that. Okay, so I can definitely tell you a thing or two about organization. You guys just need to follow that structure because it's one of the best things you can do to get a very good workflow. Anyway, back to installation. Sorry about the sidetrack, but it's good to know these things. As for installation, just make sure that you go on here and you click on what the actual program is that the add-on, that you're going to install, and then just click install add-on. Simple as that. It will install it onto your system and you're good to go. And you can find it normally when you right mouse click on the actual object, it's going to come up in somewhere like edit mode. You'll find some of them you might have to look and check with the developer of that project, because they might say you need to do a few more things in order to activate it or to have it on your screen. You might have to open up a different window or do some other things. There's all kinds of little things they might say. For instance, Simply Cloth, sometimes you'll find that it comes out on here. Some of the different add-ons, as you can see here, I've got like pipeline and car, like transportation, which is another good one to get. It's quite expensive, but this gives you pre-made cars already, and then you can edit them, do whatever you like with them. They're all yours to use after that for all kinds of games and things, okay? So yeah, there might be other alternative things that you might have to do to get your add-on to work, but as for a lot of mine, they're from a right mouse click once I go into like edit mode, or they're tucked away inside of like weight paint or something like that. So if you go on here, you'll see that when I right mouse click, you've got grid modular, you've got quite a few things on there like round insert and all these others. They're very, very good. Okay, but grid modular is one of the best so far. And I recommend it for anyone that wants to start out building things, because if I had this at the beginning, my God, I'd be building everything right from the start, but I did everything the hard way, so you don't have to. Okay, so anyway, let's get into grid modular. As you can see, I have a face selected. What you want to do is make sure you're in edit mode first. Okay, so I'm going to go back to object mode. I know this is long-winded, you can speed past this if you want. Go into edit mode, and then once you're in edit mode, click on a surface wherever you want. It could be a surface like this, or a surface like this. Right mouse click, go to grid modular. All down here is going to tell you all the information you need to know. When you right mouse click, it's going to change it to selection mode. Okay, so this is where you can rotate whatever you draw on here. You can change all the different dimensions, the pivot points, all of that kind of stuff. Perfect. I'm going to walk you through the steps. Right mouse click again to go back to your drawing tool. Basically, this is where you're going to actually do some actual work. So I'm going to draw a square on here, just to show you a demonstration of drawing a square. So now if I want to cut through there, I'll press 4, and that cuts all the way through. But because I've already made a cut through the middle, it's kept my depth already. So I'm using the depth, and I'm going to move it back up, back down, decrease it. And if we go to the top, you should see it start to come back and fill that space. So if we keep going back, as you can see here, so if I just wanted a tiny little cut into the surface or a deep cut, that all depends on the depth right here. The one thing to keep in mind is to try not to come out of this by clicking off of it somewhere and going into something else, because your chances are you won't get back to that shape. So you'll have to go into edit mode and edit it like I showed you how to do the Breville stuff. So you'd have to pick the vertices or the edges or whatever, and or the faces, and edit it that way manually. So try and stay in it and do as much as you can before exiting. Not that it's going to be too difficult to edit it, but it's just better that way, because then you've got the exact depth and you don't have to go back in and try and delete faces to make it something else or whatever, you know. Anyway, you've also got all of these, like the offset of the actual cut, the outer height, all kinds of different things you can select. You've also got here a little area that you can go onto to change everything that you want. You can change it to however you want. You can have a boolean cut, create a face, add a spleen. I think there's a spleen. Yeah, no. That's a line. Yeah, line split. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, you can add different line splits and stuff like that. The actual, if you go into Grid Modular on YouTube, you'll find the actual developer. Sorry to the developer that I haven't mentioned your name carefully. I will drop a link in the description to his YouTube channel, and also big up to the guy, because he made a good program, a good add-on that really works well. But yeah, be sure to check out his channel and also have a look at his tutorials, because he'll walk you through it. He'll show you short little clips where he builds amazing things in just a couple minutes, which is doable for anybody that knows enough of like the mechanics of building. You don't have to be an expert in Blender to make something. I wasn't, and I built amazing things very easy. You don't have to be an expert in these things. As long as you have the right tools, you can build just about anything. But yeah, that's pretty much Grid Modular in a nutshell. I'm only going to show, I think, one more little piece to this, which is you can also add objects as well. So say for instance, use Grid Modular again, and I'm going to say I'm going to draw in just like a strange shape, you know, just a random shape. Like this is perfect if you've got blueprints in the background, like a picture or something, and you're drawing around all of the picture. Then you say you break that picture, like maybe take the objects away from it, get rid of the picture, and then you could mirror image the whole thing, you know. So you mirror it, so you've got the same thing you've done on one side on the other side. So if you're building a weapon, you could do one half of it and do all the detail, and then mirror it, and it's mirrored on the other side. But I'll teach you how to do that as well. So for instance, this is like a little object here that I've got right now. I'm going to use the add object key. So I'm going to add object and just press add object is 6. I'm not sure if that worked. It might not have. It's there. but I don't think I've done it correctly. Should just use the face one actually, because it will save you trying to, because I haven't used this in a while, so you have to excuse like how I'm using this. So but I just promised a friend that I'd make a quick video, and I'm making sure that he gets that video. And for those of you that are new to my channel and just watching for the first time, this is just a quick video. It's the first of many, so you have to excuse how I'm organizing this because it's a bit rushed at the moment. When I have more time, I'll do better videos and show you guys more in depth on stuff, but you can feel free to like comment in and let me know what you want to learn, the things that you're stuck on, and I'll help you with it as best I can. So don't worry about any of that. Let's say create a new face, which is 3. It's 3 and 4 are the only 2 that I normally use anyways. You never really have to use anything else. Again, let me go into edit mode. I don't know if that, yeah. So I'm on faces. If I select this face, I go over here to move it onto the movement tool. So I've now got an entire new face, and that's a whole object right there. And if I press E right now, and I can extrude it, and I've got like a nice little object. And that's how easy it is. And the thing is this surface was unharmed in the process. The mesh was not harmed in the process of me making this object right here. No meshes was, had any problems with that. So there you go. As you can see, basically that's how you make a small mesh and how you make cuts. It's as easy as that. Now I could sit here and just go crazy with this and spam this into like some new existence. Like I could make like a futuristic weapon right now, and I'm just going to show you one quick other thing that I wasn't going to show. If I press Ctrl R, this gives me another vertex line, like another edge, sorry. So now I've got, say, 2 edges there. Well, I've got one edge in the middle to cut that. I'm going to then just go to extrude, and I'm going to press E and then Z. So I just want it to move on the Z axis. Okay, it's going down, and I've made myself just a small version of what you can say is like, if I want to make this into a gun or something like that. Sorry, let me press E again and just go straight down. There we go. So you could make this into a weapon quite easily just by using Ctrl R and moving things around. So if I press Ctrl R and I move that edge, I can put it wherever I want. And before you know it, like you see here, I've already got myself something that I can work with, like a base for a weapon, like a gun or something in a game. So if I press I on the keyboard, this is to insert. Now I'm going to go and a little bit more, once more, I again. I'm just going to go down like this, and now I could turn this section into whatever, like I could make a barrel pass through the middle, anything. Obviously this is not no professional level work what I'm doing right here, but it can turn into that very easily. And using Grid Modular, I can then edit on the surface without trying to, because if I press Ctrl R here, I can't really edit that because you see they don't line up. There's no vertices, on each of these in between that to make that work for me. So the real way to do that kind of thing, if you're gonna edit something and it's a problem like that, you have to make sure, like I said before, that your topology is correct and that you have the little vertex edges like these, like your little vertex that you want to select here, these tiny little dots. You're going to make sure that they all line up with something, because as you can see on here, there's nothing for that one and there's nothing for the center piece here. Okay, so in order for this to work, I'd have to move it down here and have it line up with this half, and then create another middle part. So if I go onto edges and I go here, and then I press Control R, and even then, as you can see, it's still trying to look for something, but it's like, I can't see nothing here. So you would literally have to add that in, and it's doable, but I want to save that kind of like editing and playing around for another video, because to be honest, I could spend a couple minutes showing you these things, but then it could just be something that you're not interested in. So I'd rather you leave comments below to let me know what it is you want to see. But yeah, it's quite straightforward. You can edit this with Grid Modular however you want. Just make sure that you clean up the retropology as you go along, making sure that everything matches up to something. Like when I sit here and I'm like, oh, is that going to be a 4 or is it going to be something awkward? That's going to be awkward because there's one in the middle and then there's 4 edges, okay? So then you want to make sure that this has a ring that can go right the way around it. So now we've got another face here, another face here, okay? And you just want to make like these kind of square on everything, because if you know about games and development, like I said earlier, you always want to have faces, okay? You really want to avoid triangles as much as possible, because it's easier for any kind of game to divide that. You know, if it needs to upscale something or downscale something, it's much easier to work with than triangles. I think, I'm not too sure of Unreal Engine, whether, I can't remember the new stuff that they've got on there actually uses triangles or something like that, but that's because they've obviously done the code for that correctly so it can register the faces and everything. But for you as a developer, the best thing you can do is try and stick with 4 of these in each corner, and that's it. That's all you need to remember, is just try and make everything line up with each other. So if I see like this and I'm missing something, I can obviously add that in and break this up. I could subdivide this face in front of me. You know, if I subdivide it, I don't think it's going to work properly, but you can make different cuts into it. So I'm going to actually just cut into it. Another way we'll say, I'm just going to press K and I'm just going to draw in the cut. So I'm going to go here and here, and K is basically cutting into the mesh, just similar to Grid Modular. And basically once you press enter at that point, I now have those 4 points that I was talking about, and I have another face. Now this is going to help me, because if I want to unwrap this in the end, meaning I want to put a skin on this and or a texture or something like that, basically a texture, not a skin, sorry, talking like I'm in a game or something, you want to put textures on, this is what you're going to need the most of. So, and most of the things that you're going to find online are going to try and stick with those 4 points to make one face, and avoid triangles. That's the last you're going to hear on that for this video. Everything else, all I would suggest is, when you are making anything in future, and the last points to this video is, I would suggest in this section here where your scene is, where you have all your objects, is to make folders. Just make like a new collection like I've done there. Just make sure it's under scene, unless you have an actual collection and you want everything to go into it, and just label and name things as you go along. It may seem a bit tedious, but for me that's been it's the biggest thing you want to do, to make sure that you know where everything is. Your cameras, you can put cameras under one. I could rename this and say camera, and then I can just drag and drop camera into there, you know, and then I can have another one for lighting, which is a good thing to do. Keep everything major separate, okay? And then on top of that, the last thing that I would suggest is, if you are having problems with editing different objects, you can also go up in here on this icon if you can't see things correctly, and you can change the theme and the layout and how everything looks on the actual screen. So if you want objects to look a certain way that helps you, you can change that right here. Also, you can actually change the opacity. So if I want to be able to see through objects, I'm clicking on that one. If I want to see it as a solid object, then I'm clicking on that one. If I want to see it with shading, clicking on this one. And if I want to see it in real time, then I'm clicking on this one. And that's how it looks when it's in the actual, in everything outside of this, okay? So we go back to this now, and I'm going to show you one more technique before I show you the last little part of the video, which is just the actual system settings. If anybody knows about your actual system, they've got it set up, you don't need to watch that, just watch maybe this part if you're unsure. So I've turned this basically into X-ray mode, so you can see through things. So if I wanted to edit that wall in the background, I can click it through the object. As you can see, I want to get onto the inside wall or the one at the back, I can click straight through, and I'm only clicking on that little vertices dot. Okay, so every time you're editing, it's quite easy to do. You just press on the X-ray mode up here, you can turn it on and off. So anytime you're editing and you want to see something on the inside, or you're working on a weapon and it has all kinds of stuff on the inside, I'd recommend doing it outside of the object and then moving it inside, and just dragging it back and forth for measurements if you want, or make it on the inside but outside of the actual object itself, just line it up so that you've got, like, where that spear is, it's a whole different object. I'll bring this behind it and I could do things, edit it and whatnot, turn it into something. For instance, if I want to make this into the barrel, I would put it behind the gun and then I would edit that barrel until it's perfect, and then I could either join it together if I wanted to, or bring it in separately into another program. So right, what I'm going to do here is just one of the major points that you're going to need to know, and that's because you see right now, if I go into object mode, we have a bit of a dilemma that you're going to find this could happen to you. So we've got this object here now, and if I move it, they're both together, right? So they haven't separated even though I've used grid modular. Now we're going to go into X-ray mode, and I'm going to select that weapon. I'm going to demonstrate how you're going to get some of these different little problems and things that you're going to run into. Go to edit mode, first, then we're going to go into X-ray mode, and in order for me to get all the faces, I want it in X-ray mode if I just want to get it from one angle, because if I select here now without touching that box, you'll see that I've got all the front faces but not all of the back. So when I go into X-ray mode now, if I use X-ray mode, I can select and get everything right there. And then we're going to use the same key we used earlier, P, on its own, the P key, and then you're just going to use selection, okay? And we're basically, now we've made this into its own object, we can go back to object mode, and we can move that box separately because they're no longer paired together. And that is one of the biggest things you're going to need to know when it comes to things like that, okay? So a lot of this is quite straightforward. If you're still in the video by now, you're probably thinking, my god, he talks a lot. But at the end of the day, this is all like stuff that you're going to come across, and to be honest, I wish I knew this sooner, because most people out there are going to give you a long hour video or some silliness like that, when it actually doesn't take that much to learn this stuff. Your hard body stuff, it's quite easy. I also have this tool here, I can't remember the name, I think it's on there, yeah, Advanced Boolean tool. That one is very good for your hard edges, soft edges, all of that, so smoothing and normals. This is another thing. This really is the last part to this, because you need to know this. One thing that you're going to need to know the most of is your normals. Those are that happens to be the direction of the face, the way it's pointing. So if you go down, so if I go into here now and I go into face orientation, so just right next to the X-ray button up here, we're going to click on this little button, and we're going to go into face orientation. And as you can see, the face orientation of that object we created is inverted, meaning all the faces are pointing inwards. Okay, and in order for us to change that, we need to first come out of that cube that we're in by going onto object mode, go back into edit mode. I'm sure that you can't do it from, so because there's another way you can do it as well. There's plenty of different ways, this is just one of them. So I've selected this gun that I've made, and I'm basically going to use my X-ray again to see through it, and I'm going to just unclick that because I don't need it like that. I want to see the faces a little bit more clearer. And then you can actually, I'm sure on here there's an invert faces one that you can press. I think it's under, let me see, not extrude normals, unwrap cube sphere. No, I don't think it's on this section. All I remember is that you can go up to one of these tabs up here. I'm pretty sure it's under mesh, and then it's under like normals. That's it. And then under normals, I'm sure it was flip, and then it just changes the actual faces to the right way up. Okay, so then now you can see all the faces are the right way. So if I was to add a texture or something, it would sit on my mesh perfectly fine without any errors or any problems. Sometimes when you export your objects, their faces could just be off. If you see any red, it means that it's not facing outwards, it's facing inwards. You see any blue, the blue just means that it's facing in the correct direction. So you can actually edit your object and you'll find you have less problems. But that is basically how you fix that. Okay. Last part of the video, as I've promised over and over, this really is the last part, is your preferences. So if we go into preferences and go into system setup, along this top bit here under system is very important, because I didn't know this when I first started out. I was like, oh my god, why is my system running so slow? I've got a really high powered computer I saved up for, what's going on? And on this top bar here, this is basically like your graphics engine and everything, and the processing unit that's running. And you want to make sure that you've got all these on experimental. Not too sure about that, but if it's going to do something to help better the performance, I'm all for it. And basically you want to have that switched on because it does make a difference. I noticed a dramatic change, even though my system's quite fast and it can render things and load stuff. I was having problems the minute I switched this on, rendered things in 2 seconds, and I was like, oh, so that's what the power of my system is, because it's not switched on automatically. It might be with Nevada, I'm not too sure. This is basically where you'll find that, and you can also change the render settings on here under render and the engine that it runs under. I normally use cycles. You can change it to EV, I think it's called. Basically EV is what I'm on now, but I normally use cycles because it's been reset since the update. So you can use either one. Cycles, I tend to find, just gets things done a little bit quicker sometimes. I might be wrong because I haven't used it in a long time. It might be EV. I'm pretty sure it was cycles that I was using before, because I had an entire setup and it's been months, if not long time since I've properly used this. And once they reset everything, I did save my loadout, but again, this is Blender for you. You know, these updates can do things like this, so the best thing to do is obviously save the actual system loadout. So you want to go onto here and make sure that you can get all of these setups done, and then at the end of it you want to make sure to save it here, save preferences, to save a version of this setup. So for instance, if I save that now, you can have auto save preferences. I'd rather take that off, just in case they do what they did, because when they reset everything, I think that's it got rid of all my stuff that I had on here. I had all my add-ons all over the place, perfectly set up for me and how I prefer it. They were like all down my timeline bar here and whatnot, but you know, that's what Blender can do, so be prepared about that. And the best thing to be knowledgeable on is that reset. Okay, so just go onto your preferences and make sure that you click on this little icon down here and just save preferences, and that's all you need to do. The rest of it, you can always look through a lot of this and you'll find there's so many changes you can make to speed up or slow down the process of things. It just depends on what you prefer, and that's pretty much everything. So if there's anything I missed or that you guys really want to know, just make sure to drop a comment, make sure to like and subscribe. I know you hate hearing those kind of things if you're like me by all these other YouTubers. I'm not bothered if you like or subscribe. I'm just more keen to letting you guys know the ins and outs of things. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff, I'll just tell you what it is. Same for Unreal Engine and all the other programs, so try and follow my channel for more updates on this kind of stuff. If you don't, you'll probably miss out on some very easy and straightforward stuff that you probably didn't know. But I'm basically going to give a rundown on everything, and then eventually I'm also going to be going over the from start to finish on how to make a AAA game and a whole bunch of other things that you probably won't have known before. So definitely check out my channel and definitely keep up to date with me on your own projects, because I can always try and help wherever I can. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next videos.